This is your World War III update. You know, nothing quite says late-stage collapse like the soon-to-be inaugurated president dumping a meme coin on the market and doing an epic rug pull to the tune of tens of billions of dollars on his constituents. I tell you, my friends, we are truly living in the end. Now, I got to tell you some big news, some big stories, and then we're going to get into the whole TikTok / Trumpcoin, Melania coin, and all the other silly stuff. But let's talk about the serious stuff right out the gates. Now, what you're looking at behind me is a Iranian bunker that has just been unveiled that is 500 meters deep. This is but one of dozens of similar bunkers. 500 meters is well beyond the depth that any bunker buster is able to hit, even with nuclear weapons. This one in particular is stockpiling their naval assets. Now, this is important because according to Al Arabia, which is a reputable Middle Eastern news agency, even by Western propaganda standards, they are saying that senior European officials believe that Israel has decided to launch an attack on Iran's nuclear facilities following the inauguration of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, with discussions being had between the Trump administration and Israel on such an operation. Now, right now, everybody's distracted with the meme coin and the TikTok and the soon-to-be declared state of emergency by Trump with respect to the border crisis, but I believe this is going to be the one that catches the headlines off guard and possibly catches the markets off guard. According to European officials, Iran has violated numerous agreements using diplomacy to covertly advance its nuclear program, including secret facilities in the Fordow and Natanz facilities. Now, because Iran's proxies are currently weakened, this, of course, reduces the risks of a coordinated retaliation against Israel should Iran be attacked, which is not to say that Hezbollah and Hamas are out of the fight entirely, but their ability to mount any sort of retaliatory strike has been severely kneecapped at this point in time. Even conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is backing Israel's right to strike Iranian nuclear facilities, and Canada is aligned with Israel and the United States against Iran's nuclear ambitions, emphasizing solidarity with the Zionist regime. So that is what we can expect quite possibly in week one. Now, apparently Trump is set to sign 200 executive orders tomorrow. All of this, of course, overshadowing this meme coin fiasco that has happened in the background that you probably didn't even know about because it's not really getting a lot of media attention for some reason. And I do believe that this is a telltale sign of an idiocratic regime in decline, an idiocratic empire in decline. Such folly and absurdity would only be present when you're in the final stages of collapse, because it's not even fiat currency. It's a meme coin. It's a centralized meme coin. You can't even really call it, it's not decentralized finance like Bitcoin. At least Bitcoin is decentralized. This is something altogether. This is a casino. This is really just trying to get money out of people and steal money from people. That's what this entire thing is. I'll explain the whole thing in just a moment. But people are still scratching their heads, asking themselves, did he really just do this? Yeah, he really just did, okay? Now, we also have to talk about Sam Altman and ChatGPT 03. Now, apparently, they've scheduled a closed-door briefing for U.S. government officials on January 30th. And AI insiders believe that this is going to be the big one, okay? Now, I'm going to go into detail about this story because I told you that one of my predictions for 2025 is going to be along the lines of artificial superintelligence and how that is going to factor in the global geopolitical calculus, never mind how it's going to disrupt things socioeconomically and put a lot of people potentially out of work, or people are going to learn to leverage these tools, and it's actually going to cause an economic explosion. Who's to say what's going to happen at this point? But this is going to require a lot of energy. Before I forget, we also need to take note of the fact that the U.S. has now officially deployed its modernized nuclear weapons in Europe, the B-61-12 gravity bomb, of course, now forward deployed right before Trump's inauguration. All of these things are being put into place right before Trump has entered into office, including the new Baltic Sea Initiative, which will essentially have NATO warships policing neutral waters, waters where Russian ships pass through frequently due to the threat of Russian sabotage of undersea critical infrastructure. So we're just going to see things could pop off big time. Every week we're going to get another major story which just seems like fiction. This week, of course, it's Trump and Melania coin, but we're only at the beginning of the week, and this is going to be a big week. We have major attacks across Russia in various oil refineries. These attacks continue to take their toll on Russia's oil and gas sector. I'm not even going to show you those videos because you've seen them all before. Well, you haven't seen those particular ones, but you've seen many similar ones. Now, this is an explosion that took place in Kiev. We don't know what it was, but whatever it was big. Probably some sort of gas facility with an explosion that big. You would assume that there was something that went up, either a weapons cache or fuel of some sort, but that was a massive explosion, and that is inside Kiev. You don't see that as often as you would assume. Now, rumor is that the Ukrainians are starting to take their toll on the Russian defenses as well as Russian critical infrastructure, making potential gains across the entirety of the front. Of course, that's from the Institute for the Study of War, which is a very pro-Western, often propaganda-laden publication overseen by Victoria Nuland herself. We also have a second Romanian breach of airspace. Russian missiles entered into Iranian airspace twice in the Tulsia region in the last couple days. And I believe that it was Norway that had to scramble jets in the Baltic as a result of some sort of Russian incursion into NATO airspace within that region. Russia is preparing to counter NATO threats in the Baltic Sea, so this is where we could actually see some kind of showdown. And I'm not going to show you the video, but of course, as you know, you probably are aware, Hamas has released some hostages, and Hamas's force still looks very formidable considering the destruction that has been exacted on the Gaza Strip. They appear to still be fully kitted out and fully supplied somehow, some way, which really does lead me to believe whether or not Israel is behind some of this in some way, operating covertly amidst Hamas as an excuse to wage war on the entirety of the Middle East. Now, let's get to this interesting story here. Sam Altman scheduled, the OpenAI guy, the guy who recently was accused of and had to make this disclaimer on X about how he didn't actually molest his sister for 10 years, okay? These guys are weird at the top, right? Anyways, that's now all been overshadowed by this groundbreaking discovery in artificial general intelligence. Now, Jake Sullivan had something to say about it. He said that AI insiders believe a big breakthrough on the PhD level of super agents is coming. OpenAI staff have been telling friends that they're both jazzed and spooked by recent progress. Jake Sullivan says that the discovery exhibits godlike powers, okay? So I'm going to explain what all this means in just a moment, what this is going to enable them to do if you're not well versed in computer programming. Not that I am per se, but I've, read the articles. Jake Sullivan, with 3 days left as White House National Security Advisor with wide access to the world's secrets, called us to deliver a chilling, catastrophic warning for America and the incoming administration. The next few years, he said, will determine whether artificial intelligence leads to catastrophe and whether China or America prevails in the AI arms race. And this is something that everybody needs to take note of right now. Just like there is a threat of biological warfare and cyber attack and nuclear attack and space-based warfare, in which countries have to operate in secret so not to disclose the true capabilities that they might have in any one of these particular domains. Because, of course, if you were to disclose that, then your enemy might have access to that information, and they might use that to empower themselves. So all countries have a vested interest in investing in this arms race whilst trying to keep this thing under control. So the problem with all of this is, of course, just like nuclear weapons development, there are risks when both sides are doing bioengineering or bio-warfare. Something can get leaked from a lab, as we all know. And in the same way with artificial general intelligence, there is a motivation there to try to develop the most super intelligent computer that you possibly can, because if you don't, then the other guy is going to get ahead of you, and then of course that would put you at a disadvantage and you won't have escalation dominance. So what they're working on in secret is likely something which is potentially as dangerous as a bioweapon. If you've watched a lot of artificial intelligence based science fiction, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Underscoring the gravity of this message, Sullivan spoke with an urgency and directness that were rarely heard during his decade plus in public life. Somehow government will have to join forces with these companies to nurture and protect America's early AI edge and shape the global rules. Now we assume it's an edge because we don't know what China has. We don't know what kind of supercomputers they have. They don't disclose that information. We don't know how many nukes they have. We don't know, the AI algorithm, TikTok code. There's so many things that we don't know that are going on in China. And shape the global rules for using potentially godlike powers, he says. And this is beyond uncharted waters. It's an unexplored galaxy, a new frontier in his words, and one, he warns, where the progress routinely exceeds projections in advancement. Progress is now pulsing in months, not years. The big picture: no person we know in a position of power in AI or governments who doesn't share Sullivan's broad belief in the stakes ahead. They're saying that this new version of ChatGPT 5 or O3 is, as it's called, could potentially have an IQ in the range of 150 to 160, which is essentially a level of intelligence that can virtually solve most of the problems that might be currently befalling mankind. In the top 200 world programmers, it dominated in science and math. So it ranked, when it was assessed, in the top 200 of world programmers. And it also on the ARC-AGI benchmark testing. So that's programmers now. So that means you can tell it to program you a website or a video game or a piece of software, and it will just do it. You can say, I need such and such a software, and it will make it. So it's, well beyond just make me an image that looks like so-and-so or make me a video. According to the ARC-AGI benchmark testing, ChatGPT 4 scored 11%. Okay? Humans score around 85%. This particular O3 model scores at 87.5%. Now, people might say, well, that's not much over humans, but understand the progress that's been made in the last 2 years. And of course, really, this is just what they're telling us they have. They might not tell us from here on in out of fear of sparking some sort of public panic, which might attempt to rein this in. Remember, they tried to 2 years ago. There was a debate about how are we going to regulate AI? Well, pretty much, because none of these old geezers even understand how to use TikTok, like hell they're going to understand the potential implications of AI. So NVIDIA, we'll get to that in just a moment, but just show you a few more graphs here. So this is how O3 scored on math. So O1 was, I believe it was like the ChatGPT 3. Okay, so it would score in competition math tests 56.7. It's already up to 96 87.7, okay? PhD level science questions already 87.7, already at a level which is amongst the highest in the human population. Essentially, we are seeing hyperbolic growth in artificial intelligence. Let me just try to put this in perspective in other ways, okay? So this is in September of 2024. So a human expert would score 89.8% on this test, whatever test this was. I can't remember. This is I'm not sure which test this is, but so this is how they kind of look at. So GPT-2 in 2019, 32%. You can see the progress here. GPT-3, 2020, 43.9%, 3.5, nearly doubled. And now we're heading into, and this is O1 in 2024. Okay, so the test ceiling is here. So really, O3, we're already at the point where it's maxed out in terms of, problems that humans even know are problems at this point in time, okay? Let me see if I can find you guys another graph that really puts this into perspective, the breakneck pace of artificial intelligence development. It really is to a point where we're approaching the singularity. Now, to understand, and I would encourage you to go and just do your own research on this kind of stuff because this is really fascinating. So you don't, AI and data collection, with these simulations, it's not just about using a robot in the real world. Normally how they would go and get data and teach a robot to do something, you'd have to have that robot do it in the real world and program in exactly what you want it to do in every single situation, and it would be limited to learning in real time using its physical form, right? So actually having a robot, if you want to teach a robot how to pour, a cup of coffee, the robot would have to learn and it would have to do all of these trials over and over and over again. And it would take, an incredible amount of time. So this is NVIDIA's Dojo robot training. This is a simulation that accelerates training by 10,000 times. The robots undergo 1 year of intense training in a virtual dojo, but it only takes 50 minutes of wall clock time. Then they can input, this is the Unitree robot, by the way. If you haven't seen that one, watch my last video. I show a demo of it. Then they can take this new information that the robots learn, put it in the robot, and then the robot is going to be able to navigate the real world. Now, of course, this is not without its challenges and drawbacks and shortcomings, but nonetheless, the idea of virtually training these things and trying to simulate the physics is there, and it works. It can rapidly accelerate the creation of, or the integration of artificial intelligence and robotics. And we are going to see an explosion in that this year. Now, the problem is, how is it going to be weaponized? What sort of effect is it going to have on an economy where people are so desperate that they're FOMOing into a shit coin that's been put out by the president and his family members now? It appears that they're probably all going to get in on the shitcoin business at some point. How is this going to disrupt things is the big question. So we're going to hear a big announcement on the 30th, apparently, and that is going to potentially change the game by the sounds of things. Interesting observation. If you're familiar with Trumpcoin, as it's called, this is where I had to say, are they just messing with us? So there's something called, what is it called? Pareidolia. It's when you see patterns, meaningful patterns in otherwise random bits of data. And so this is the track the stock ticker for Trump, Trumpcoin. And so you can see it shot up there on Friday night, and then it kind of traded sideways a bit, bumped a bit, and then it declined. But isn't that interesting? Did they do that on purpose? Really? Did they do that on purpose? I don't know. This is real too. Didn't believe it at first. I thought this was like AI generated or something, but it's uncanny, isn't it? Look at that. I mean, that is crazy. And because they control 80% of the coins, they very well could have done this to look like that. Now, this is a coin which is supposed to have a 3-year lifespan in terms of the release of, there's a bigger shot for you there. In terms of the release of the coins, I suppose we can get into some of the specifics of it, but it reminds me a lot of this situation right here. You know, this is where we're at. The level of innatity that we're seeing right now. Oh yeah, this is that graph I wanted to show you. So this is ARC AGI V1 scores over time. So it wasn't even on the map, okay? GPT-2, GPT-3 down here in 2020, 2021. Look at this, 2024, 2025. Boom, explosion in intelligence. That's where we are right now. We are in for a wild, wild ride. Now let's talk about Hawktua coin. No, let's talk about this. Let's talk about Trumpcoin for a moment. Then we'll talk about how TikTok is causing 911 call centers to be overwhelmed. Okay, so everything we know about Trumpcoin. Trump runs on the Solana blockchain. 80% of the token supply is reserved for Trump-affiliated entities, far exceeding the typical range of 10 to 30%, okay? Sold via a decentralized exchange and the Moonshot app, which accepts payments like Apple Pay. Moonshot app surged to number 8 in the App Store. This has already made several people millions of dollars. The problem is that it's always a zero-sum game. And unlike a stock, which is based on companies that actually generate revenues, these shitcoins don't generate anything. You don't even use them for anything. You don't even use it as a means of exchange. It is simply for the purpose of gambling. So when you win, somebody else loses. So when you hear all these success stories of, I turned 50 grand on Trumpcoin into $1 million, that means that somebody out there lost $950,000. It's a zero-sum game. Now, these tokens are not fully liquid, so more coins will be released gradually over 3 years. I believe there's 1 billion coins and 200 million have been released. Increased token supply could dilute existing value. Currently, at the time of making this video, I believe the market cap was around 13 billion. It went up and then it crashed down to 40 after Melania, or whoever is behind the Melania coin, Freudian slip there, decided to put out that coin. Sustainability, early hype may fade, but Trump has shown an ability to sustain attention. So exactly, I could imagine that this coin thing could keep going for a while, and it will be like a Dogecoin, unfortunately. It won't be used for anything, but people will just gamble with it, okay? And so this coin is offered by CIC Digital LLC, an affiliate of the Trump Organization, and Fight LLC, which together hold 80% of the token supply. CIC Digital has also handled Trump's NFTs and other branded ventures. And I don't think Trump is the one doing this. It's probably Barron Trump or somebody, Eric Trump, one of these guys who's actually, really making bank on these scams. Melania launched her own coin. Melania valued at over $5 billion. Shortly after its debut, it's hard to say where it's at now, if it's crashed or it could have went through the roof, because everybody has a fear of missing out at this point in time. So needless to say, people are going to be admonishing Trump for that for the foreseeable future. But as I indicated before, people will likely be distracted in short order, because here are just some of the executive orders that are going to be put into place on day one, okay? Firstly, he's going to be postponing the TikTok ban for up to 90 days, but it's unclear as to whether or not he can even legally do that, okay, because of the Supreme Court ruling, but he is passing that executive order. I guess time will tell. They're going to be closing the U.S. U.S.-Mexico border. Yes, closing the U.S.-Mexico border, directing the U.S. military to construct additional infrastructure on the U.S.-Mexico border. He's going to be declaring a state of emergency over the border issue, designating Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, which perhaps might grant them some leeway in going after these organizations, reinstating a ban on transgender and military service, rescinding any DEI policy put into place by the Biden administration, repealing several policies on electric vehicles, which is interesting, with the Department of Government Efficiency overseen by Elon Musk, and apparently no longer Vivek Ramaswamy, because he is now going to be running for governor, apparently. Repealing several policies related to the Green New Deal, removing certain limits on offshore drilling on federal land, declaring a national emergency on energy, which is interesting, removing limits of offshore drilling, okay, I just said that one, orders on mass deportations of illegal immigrants, ending birthright citizenship, reestablishing the Remain in Mexico program, pardons for hundreds, if not thousands, of those who participated in the J6 protests, and the list goes on and on and on. So it is going to be a head-spinning week of chaos. This is an account who I believe sold all of their Trumpcoin but never made a purchase. They made $35 million. $35 million on the rug pull, okay? So it makes Hawk Tua's coin, it makes Hawk Tua look good, actually, by comparison. But is anybody really holding Trump to account for this shit? Some of the crypto bros are incredibly pissed off about it, but they're really a niche audience. And I don't think that this is going to necessarily garner the national attention it deserves. Because really, this is one of the sleaziest things an up-and-coming president can do. And that's not a political statement, okay? If Obama or Biden or Pelosi, could you imagine if Pelosi tried to pull this? You know, I mean, for one, nobody would buy it. But, you know, this is just a sign of the times, the absurdity in which we live. And this is probably the cringiest thing I've seen since whatever Nicole Arbour's last video was. It's Roseanne Barr and Tom MacDonald, the new song Daddy's Home. And it's just, you know, when I look at this sort of thing, I have to ask myself, if I'm the Chinese or the, you know, any of our adversaries who are far more, I don't know, just put together and professional of a society than we are at this point in time, I can't quite put into words the absurdity of all of this. You know, and thinking that we're entering the age of artificial general intelligence. And this is the state of human intelligence. It's really bad. It's depressing. It's no different than WAP or what's on the other end of the spectrum. I mean, just North American culture in general is just right down the toilet at this point in time. And we're, you know, it's not going to get much better, I don't think. So in terms of the TikTok ban, TikTok was banned, and then apparently it was reinstated. We don't know if Trump is going to be able to abrogate these decisions or not, but people were freaking out. People were calling 911. I believe a guy set fire to a Wisconsin representative's office over the TikTok ban. They were receiving all kinds of emergency calls from teens and children expressing their love. 170 million people are on this app. It's all about data, and it's all about national security. I did a video 2 years ago on why the TikTok ban is absolutely necessary, if only it has to be put under the control of some American corporation or some American entity, maybe even nationalized. That would be the first. It likely won't happen. But it can't be in the control of the Chinese government, because there is no composite to that. There is no countervailing force there with Americans having apps in the Chinese society. So for this reason, I think that what's likely going to happen is TikTok will be sold, because they want the data. The American government wants the data as much as the Chinese government does. Now, the problem is that the algorithm is patented. And so China's concern has always been, and this is where I believe the negotiations kind of hit a wall, is that the Chinese don't want to relinquish the algorithm, which is an integral part of TikTok. And should they have to sell TikTok or a significant portion of it, that means they would have to forfeit the prized algorithm that they feel is a intellectual property, right? So for that reason, it's likely that they could just have an impasse and the TikTok ban remains in place unless they're able to get some sort of deal, or maybe TikTok USA gets some watered down version, or they just negotiate the sale of the algorithm itself, which people claim is much better than other algorithms of the sort, be it Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, or X videos. Not that kind of X videos, but Twitter videos. So they're thinking that there's a high moat there, but I'm not entirely sure because I've used all of the aforementioned and it doesn't seem like my attention is held longer on TikTok than it is on Insta Reels. So, who knows? Maybe it's a moat that is shrinking. Canadian dollar is at record lows compared to the US dollar, which is part of the reason why gold is at all-time highs in Canadian dollars. It appears as though people are starting to trade their paper silver for physical. We are seeing that trending higher, as you can see by this graph here, the highest, in fact, of exchange since records were kept, at least as far as this graph is concerned, as far back as the year 2000 anyways. So people are starting to trade in their paper for silver. How's Melania coin doing here? What's our market cap? So our market cap at one point was, what are we at here? Where do I see the market cap? Market cap is currently 7.8 million, which is not that much compared to, presuming that this is the right ticker. There's so many of these meme coins, and a lot of people are buying the wrong Trump coin, thinking that they bought the wrong one. In fact, they pumped one up to like billions of dollars, and it wasn't even the Trump coin. But now, Trump is, at least Trump-affiliated entities are crypto billionaires. Georgia Department of Agriculture, highly pathogenic avian influenza confirmed in commercial poultry. So I believe that means that they're not going to be able to sell chicken, and there's going to be a chicken recall in Georgia. You're likely going to see that across the board. Here's the hypocrisy of some of the purveyors of the mega ideology, Charlie Kirk being one of them. He says ban TikTok in November of 2022. And then in, January of 2023, he says ban TikTok. And today they're celebrating because TikTok is back. Remember that the person who initially proposed the TikTok ban was Donald Trump. And now they're against it for some reason. But it was an incredibly smart move for him to be applauded as the hero because, of course, the TikTok generation is Generation Z and A. And so Trump basically just won over Generation Z and A. So for the Democrats to hand him that on a silver platter tells you how out of touch those guys are with the pulse of American politics. What else do we got? Oh yeah, Trump says he's going to disclose records around the assassination of former President JFK and Martin Luther King and other topics of great public interest. I'm personally looking forward to the drone disclosure. But again, when they say they're going to disclose records, what records are we talking about? Is everything going to be redacted in these records? I mean, really, what should we expect here? And can we even believe it when we get it? Are people going to believe it? This is Joe Biden's last descent off of Air Force One, and it looks like he did not stumble the last time. Trump wants tariffs so large they would generate $1 trillion in revenue. Well, isn't that just going to cause manufacturers to raise their prices by $1 trillion? I know Canada is contemplating the nuclear option, and that would mean selling the U.S. our oil at spot price as opposed to giving any discounts, which of course would have pretty serious repercussions on the oil markets, because I believe we sell them 2 million, is it barrels of oil a day? Something to that extent. Anyways, it's a lot. Anyways, guys, that's what I got for you today. I just wanted to make a quick little Sunday night video for you. Things are crazy, and they're going to get crazier and crazier. So here we are, week 3, and this is what we got going on. If you want to support the channel, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and check out Preparedness.com. I want to show you guys something. This is my winter coat, okay? This is the warmest winter coat. I gotta get it on here. I bought this coat probably about, I don't know, 6 years ago now, 7 years ago. This is an Outdoor Survival Canada jacket. Okay, this is not your vanity purchase like Canada Goose. These coats are the warmest coats in the world. We sell these at CanadianPreparedness.com. They come at a pretty penny. You get your Fox liner. This is 800 down fill. This is one of the toughest jackets that money can buy, and the warmest. It still fits as good as the day that I bought it. And if you want something that you're not going to regret for years to come, get an Outdoor Survival Canada jacket. The warmest jackets on earth. This isn't even the warmest variant. They say this one goes down to -40. I would say if you're properly layered, this will take you, as low as you're ever going to go on the North American continent, which is maybe -50. But they do sell jackets that are built for Antarctic expeditions that go down to -60. So if you're somebody who gets cold, pick up a Mission jacket. These are expensive coats, but it's one of those purchases you make once, and it's going to last you for hopefully decades. I'm reluctant to say, depending on what sort of activity you do with it, but mine has lasted me, I believe this is my 7th year having this particular coat, and honestly, I've never dry cleaned it once. It still looks pretty much like new for the most part. A few Velcro things fell off here and there, but for the most part, man, it is just a great coat, and it is cold in here, and it's probably going to be cold where you are, at least for the next couple days with this polar vortex that is descending to the southern part of the continent. So get ready. Winter, I think we're over the hump of it. I think we're past the middle, but I guess we'll have to see. That doesn't mean that, you shouldn't be prepared. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.